This podcast is brought to you with limited interruption by Rudy Luther Toyota. Whether looking for an exciting brand new Toyota, a certified pre-owned vehicle, or getting quality routine maintenance and service for your vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota is the place to go. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Subscribe to the podcast Beyond Politics. They host some of the biggest names and smartest minds. Beyond Politics is from a former Democratic congressman who helped ignite Barack Obama's campaign and a former campaign manager and political columnist. They go beyond the usual chatter on politics, news, science, and books. It's politics and everything beyond. On Beyond Politics, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Broadcasting live on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and in the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Tuesday. Good to have you with us today, Matt and Patrick, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Coming up a little bit later on in the 4 o'clock hour, Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer joins us. Patrick, how are we today?
Oh, not doing too bad. How are you?
I'm okay. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but it just dawned on me and I'm a little confused. Because, of course, we're in the Twin Cities. Sorry, Chicago, this is not meant to throw shade in any capacity, but we're basketball crazy right now here in the Twin Cities because of the Timberwolves being in the Western Conference Championship. Tonight, the Boston Celtics take the center stage against Indiana. Can you explain to me, do you have any idea why they call them the Celtics and not the Celtics?
I actually do not know that. I think it's something that I've read the reason why that is, but I do not know.
All right. Because it is a little bit of a brain teaser. That it should be the Celtics, right? I'm sure there's a reason. I'm sure some academia guy, let me explain to you the verbology of the whole thing here. If you look at the third moon of Jupiter, okay, thank you. All right. If you have the information, you can email. By the way, the email to the station's wide open. Comment at am950radio.com. Comment at am950radio.com. Come on, book nerds. Make me look smart. All right? Thank you. I appreciate that. 952-946-6205. So I want to start off today with a very interesting trend that is taking place on the social media, Yo Home Slice. It has to do with Generation X, which I am Generation X, okay? And if you've not spent any time on the Instagram or the Twitter or the TikTok, you might not know that there have been these generational fights that have been going on. Millennials and Generation Z relentlessly taunt the boomers, baby boomers. Millennials and Generation Z go after each other quite a bit. It's kind of interesting. But suddenly, for some reason, late Generation Z and early Gen Alphas, which is the next one, Gen Alpha, they've decided to pick a fight with Generation X. And it's nothing major. It's boy, you guys do some stupid things. Ha 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 ha. What's interesting is as they do this, millennials have stepped in and said, what are you doing? No. You don't mess with Generation X, man. Do you understand who you're dealing with here? There's a reason why Gen X has stayed kind of in the background, that people haven't picked a fight with them. You don't want to kind of mess with Generation X. And I kind of agree. You don't want to, because there's plenty of reasons that you probably want to avoid picking a fight with the meanest cat in the street, okay? I'm just going to let you know. And that's not me being pompous or arrogant. You have to understand Generation X. You have to understand Generation X if you want to dance, okay? And you don't want to dance. Now, once again, part of Generation X is an understanding of, I'm not about to speak for all of Generation X. There are plenty of people that counterpoint what I'm about to go down, this list of characteristics of Generation X people. It's not perfect. It's not an absolute. It's not a 100%. But these are characteristics I have noticed, and as well are common things that have happened to Generation X, which has created this interesting generation, which you really don't want to tangle with. Not because you don't get a good shot, and hey, I can rip on things too, but you don't understand Generation X. It's not like we sit there and watch like Stranger Things and say, boy, oh boy, look, they're listening to that music. They're wearing those outfits. We don't look at it like that. Generation X looks at it and says, holy God, did you see the don't do drugs sticker in the window? How in the world did they ever find one from the 1980s like that? We've kind of, I mean, the music and the culture is so inflated from the 1980s that we don't look at the main things. We dive deep. So what I'm going to do is offer you some ideas. Basically, I'm going to give you some ideas of some of the things that define Generation X. Okay. And this will help you figure us out a little bit and kind of make sure you understand. You probably don't want to dance with us. All right? All right. Number one, first of all, we were raised by people who offered the emotional support of a boulder. Okay? We were really, not getting that emotional culturing that you think we should have gotten. And so kind of we emotionally cultured ourselves. So that's number one. We were the first real generation to not only realize the lies of the previous generations, like smoking is fine, fossil fuels are infallible, and you need to wear a suit and tie and shave every day for you to be successful. We kind of figured out that stuff was kind of garbage anyway. But unlike the hippies in the 60s, peace and love, who basically all became Republicans and decided to worship greed, we kept that chip on our shoulder. We didn't change. We didn't become what we rallied against. We saw the problems and we stayed on the dark side. We weren't about to all of a sudden become Republican hippies. Now, once again, not absolute, but still, you get it. There's more of us that said, no, that's just crap. So, there was no anonymity of the internet. Okay, we just didn't have that. If you wanted to insult someone, you did it to their face. Our entire generation was groomed on face-to-face insults and sometimes fights. And forced emotional confrontation taught us to ignore things which are not an immediate issue, like anonymous social media attacks by people who clearly need to deal with their own issues before they come after us. No, we learned very quickly what to tune out and what to tune in. And you as late Z, Generation Alpha, thinking you're going to, let's go upset them. Yeah, we feel sad for you. Good luck with all that. We never had the luxury of being stupid. We never did. We all got vaccinated because there were people around when we were kids who had half their family die off because someone ate a bad plum and they all got rickets cough. It was kind of one of those things. Today, I honestly think one of the reasons why you see this rise in I'm against vaccinations was you haven't been around people who understand what vaccinations do. We went through hazing rituals while adults applauded what they considered to be wholesome fun. Holy Lord. We were the first latchkey kids watching our parents gleefully abandon us as they went off to work. Now, back then, most of our parents went to work not due to necessity, but rather just to get away from us, which kind of hurt a little bit. But, that was them. We were fed Pop-Tarts and microwave hot dogs under the argument it was a nutritious diet. We grew up being told we were over the hill at 40, and here I am at 55, exercising harder than I ever freaking have. Thank you very much for that one. You accuse us of being tech novices, but while you have a meltdown because there are some problems with this update for your favorite app, we had to learn how to program on a 79-step process on a 400-button remote control to program a VCR to record one 30-minute freaking show. And then we had to teach a generation of our elders, some of whom grew up in a house with no electricity, how to do it. And we did. You had to venture out into the world when we were Generation X to visit your friends or to do school research or to shop actually engaging in human interaction, something most people today are terrified of. At 16, we had the mentality of a 35-year-old. At 55, we still have a mentality of a 35-year-old. Because all of our phone calls were taken with other people listening, we learned how to hide what we were saying. At the very least, we learned some modesty. While we appreciated the clear and spot-on description of youth angst from John Hughes films, we still noticed they worshipped a wealthy white people world, which most of us didn't understand. We had to learn how to drive a stick and change the oil in our car, something completely foreign to most people today. We were told we needed to learn these things because they were useful skills. Many of us, not all of us, heard the racism of our elders and knew it was wrong. Not all of us, but a lot of us did. We witnessed fights over who is next in line at a video game. Seriously, that was weird. We were the first generation to realize how much was really going wrong. Climate change, gun violence, the rampant abuse of our country. But since we were the first generation to insist it was wrong, we had to wait for the next generations, the millennials and Generation Z, to help fight it while the older generation constantly dismissed, ignored, and insulted us. Teachers would hit us, and other adults would insist, well, you deserved it. It is. You never wore a band t-shirt unless you bought it at the concert you attended. We still live by that rule today. No fakes. Absolutely. Agree with that. Our jobs were always in adult-like work situations. Not only would your coworkers act like you were going to be dropping into school and joining them in at the McDonald's or something like that, but I knew multiple 15 and 16-year-olds in relationships with their 20-year-old coworkers, and no one batted an eye. No one did at that point. We were the first generation screwed over by the greed of our predecessors, watching the cost of cars, college, and housing soar to new record highs. Even worse today, setting up the world today where the only thing keeping the insane system in place are conservative courts. When our parents saw us play video games and said, our kid is a computer genius, we realized how little our parents knew about computers. Younger generations put that crud on their resumes. We call out bull when we see it, and we don't care whose feelings get hurt. We're adaptable. We are the first self-aware generation that realized that following generations did indeed do things better than ours. So we embrace new technology and new things with relative ease. For an example, I inherited a whole bunch of albums from my grandparents who just refused to give them up. No one in my Generation X age brackets still listens to cassettes or CDs. They just don't. We understand it was an inferior model. Many of us built our own first computer. Our annual vacations were jammed into a station wagon stuffed sweaty knee to sweaty knee with your siblings driving across the country to sleep three wide in a god-awful fold-out couch in a distant relative's home in the middle of nowhere. And instead of doing anything cool where we went, we just basically did the same things at home, only with our cousins. We saw the world that Charles Schultz was trying to strive for, and we actually yearned for it. If you had a sporting event, most parents dropped us off alone an hour before the start time, would pick us up an hour after the event finished while we waited alone on the field. Not only would our parents not even think about taking the time to watch the game, they wouldn't even ask what happened when they picked you up. Our whiny little biatch meters were fine-tuned 40 years ago, and they still work fine. If you didn't have a car, you biked over to a friend's home. If they didn't have a bike, then you walked 2 to 3 miles. If you got there and your friend wasn't home, you try to remember if there was any other friends who lived near them. If not, you just walked home. And once again, we just don't care. We just don't. That's Generation X. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show. It is the Matt McNeil Show on your Tuesday, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. You know, no, I mean, seriously, Generation X, we just don't care. Complain all you like about us from the safety of your social media. We will not change us or phase us. We don't care. I mean, people ask me all the time, why do you block me? Because you don't matter to me, okay? You want so desperately to matter to me. You so desperately want my attention. I don't care. If you're a jerk, you're gone, man. I got better things to do in my life. That's Generation X, man. And there are some things about Generation X that, you know, I know a lot of people that have had it too. I'm not sure. Is everyone? I know a lot of people in Generation X, when I talked about the sports thing and parents would just drop you off early and then pick you up late. I knew a lot. I knew at least 5 or 6 people in Generation X where a parent completely forgot about you. Completely forgot about you. Neil Gaiman has apparently a story about that as well. Getting left at a train station while parents went out of town. No, you know, there were times where you got forgotten. And when they finally did pick you up, did they apologize? Of course not. I mean, also, I knew a lot of people whose parents I mean, parents for Generation X would be categorized as chronic alcoholics today. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. That's how they would. No one batted an eye back then. It just was what it was. No, you want to come at us, I'm not going to stop you. You want to do it, that's fine. But if you're doing this to try to get some sort of reaction from Generation X, I mean, mind you, I guess I'm talking about it. I'm just bringing up a cultural thing I've noticed, but I'm just kind of putting this out as a warning shot. We don't care. We don't care. And we'll come at you really hard and hurt your feelings. And then we'll block you because we don't care about you. So we're using weird ellipses online. Who cares? Seriously, is this your life? Come on, do better. Do better. That's what you're upset about? Please. Please. No. Generation X, we just don't care. And you can complain about us. We're just not going to care. And that's the reality is in this modern world of look at me, look at me, look at me, validate me, validate me, validate me. We're not playing your damn game. Sorry. That's just it. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. A lot about Trump today. First of all, though, I've got to talk about Trump media because I haven't talked about Truth Social and Trump. It's been tumbling. It's been tumbling, wumbling. And you know why? The tech company reported its quarterly update here. Its first quarter for 2024, it made $770,500. Wow, that's a lot of money. It sounds good. Their net loss was $327.6 million. Holy God, that's bad. You lost $327.6 million. You made $770,000. Needless to say, people are starting to reevaluate whether or not Trump stock is worthwhile. I didn't think it was. Now, I should note to everyone, it was down, way down. And I think it got down to the 20s from its starting point in the 70s. It just kept falling down. And then Trump came on out and said, hey, Republicans, you need to go buy this. You need to go buy this now. You need to help out my stock. And it did. And I think a lot of Republicans went out there and bought his stock. And you are all suckers. Because if you're a fool, if you don't think part of that $327 million isn't checks being written to lawyers. Absolutely. Shares fell by more than 10% on Tuesday after the company whose majority shareholder is Donald Trump revealed staggering losses in his first earnings report since the stock became public trading. That's right. You go public, you have to report what happens. The first quarter loss equals out to about a net loss of $3.61 per share per attributed common shareholders. Needless to say, it was grossly overpriced in the first place. Once again, that's a share that should be trading somewhere around $4 or $5. It should be. That's every legitimate stock evaluator I've seen has said the same thing. That stock should be trading around $4 or $5. The fact that it's up in the 40s is insanity. Most of its revenue came through nascent advertising initiative. Who doesn't love MyPillow? And insisted the company was focused on long-term product development instead of quarterly revenue. That's kind of what you have to say when you take it in the trousers like that. Share prices have seesawed public there. It basically started off at 79 per share. It went down to 22 or something like that, 24. And then basically it's got a $44 value as of Tuesday morning, but it's been plummeting ever since. So, yeah, good luck with that. Also, there's this other story that just, once again, this was breaking news today. Former President Trump's attorney found classified documents in his bedroom 4 months after the FBI searched Mar-a-Lago. The revelation comes as part of a newly unsealed opinion that U.S. District Judge Beryl Howell cited last year when she found that prosecutors brought forward sufficient evidence to show Trump mishandled classified documents. So I want to make sure I repeat that because that's crazy. So once again, he hid these documents. His own lawyers found documents in his bedroom 4 months after the FBI raid. So he stashed secret documents in, kind of cubby holes and secret compartments. And now he still has them. And once again, we need to step back and understand who this guy is. This isn't a master businessman. I just went through his stock issues. This is a guy who's only in it for himself. This is a guy who is only in it for himself. And so I have zero doubt a lot of these documents have been bought and paid for by the highest bidder, namely Russia. Without a doubt in my mind. He has sold American secrets to foreign companies, foreign countries, because and companies probably, because he needs the money. You have to remember, this is a guy who basically his entire id is this Scrooge McDuck-like, I've got a vat of money I swim in every day. And so it's not good enough for him just to be wealthy. He's got to be perceived as this uber wealthy guy. He's losing hundreds of millions of dollars. He has to he's so dependent on his stock that he's basically ordered the Republican Party to buy his stock to prevent it from collapsing, which it seems to be doing now. And he's got to figure out a way to pay bills. I mean, he has so many lawyers that he owes money to. He has so many municipalities he owes money to that without a doubt, his day-to-day monies right now, I have zero doubt he's selling off American secrets to the highest bidder. And this is just more proof of it. You can get upset about Joe Biden having classified documents, but they found all the documents. They searched. They found all the stuff. They basically said he was forthright, and they brought no charges. Trump keeps lying. He keeps lying. He keeps basically insisting I didn't have documents. And once again, for all you Republicans out there who keep trying to apologize and keep insisting this is a setup, this is his own lawyers turning this stuff over. His own lawyer said, holy God, this has got to be turned back over. He's a corrupt and horrible human being. Speaking of which, we'll touch on his trial when we do come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in the afternoons on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show on your Tuesday. Nice to have you with us, 952-946-6205. Robert Costello, so let's go back to the trial. The trial is basically over, and let's start with the main thing. Trump is not testifying because he would be the biggest idiot on the planet if he tried to. I mean, let's just cut the crud. He's basically admitted to the crime in his little hallway chance that he has at the courthouse. He has admitted now twice that he was involved in paying off Stormy Daniels. The first time he completely kind of admitted it. The second time he tried to correct himself afterwards, but he did imply very clearly that he was guilty. And then once again, come the closing arguments, which will be next Tuesday, I would be hard pressed if the prosecutor did not indeed. Let's go to the hallway here. Here he is admitting it. I mean, it's a pretty hard thing to knock down. You put that dude on the stand, the prosecutor will have him admitting everything. Dang right, I've been selling off documents. They're my documents to sell. It would be a nightmare. My guess, I don't know how many people had to tell him this. I don't think he wanted to. I mean, he insisted he was going to testify in his defense beforehand, but I don't think he ever wanted to. And even if he did, I got to imagine his family, his lawyers, the RNC, everyone was like, no, bad idea. He froze up for 30 freaking seconds on the stage at the NRA, for God's sakes. Yeah, and he wouldn't be able to, and you see, this is the problem for him, this is why a lot of people think that he's going to bail out on the debate thing, is that, he basically has had, constant teachings and like an ear pack in and stuff like that to help defend himself in debates in the past. He's not going to be able to do that this time, so it's just going to be him and Biden, and I think his team is terrified of him, Biden, and a moderator, and that's the only people in the room. So, Costello took back on the stand. Once again, this is the lawyer. This is their primary defense witness, whose whole argument was that there was no there between Cohen and Trump. But as you'll hear, because he started off on cross-examination, the prosecutors had their chance at this guy today, and they basically called him out saying, well, why are all your emails implying there is a relationship? He back on the stand, he wear a gray suit, pink shirt today. Justice Merchan reminds him he's under oath and calls the jury to be brought in. Initially, we were looking at an email from Cohen to Robert Costello and his other lawyers. And once again, this is the prosecutor questioning him. The date on the email is not clear. Cohen asks Costello to stop contacting him. Cohen tells Costello in his email point blank that he is not his lawyer. Costello's attitude, which was a problem for Justice Merchan yesterday, is already bursting under the cross-examination from Susan Hoffinger, the prosecutor. Not many witnesses, of course, are like being cross-examined, but it's notable considering the reprimand that Merchan yesterday. Hoffinger now reads from an email Costello sent to Michael Cohen, which he described his relationship with Giuliani as potentially being very useful to you. Giuliani at this point was close with Trump. So once again, Costello's arguing, even though his emails clearly point out that he was indeed trying to insert himself as a mediator between Trump and Cohen. His argument is, there was no relationship here, and yet we have these clear emails from him saying, there's don't worry, we got your back. Prosecutors have told specific story about Costello, and he was a part of the pressure campaign on Michael Cohen in 2018 as Cohen, who faced a federal investigation into his hush money payments, and Stormy Daniels was considering turning against Trump. The defense sought to muddy the story when Cohen was testifying, but by calling Costello as their own witness, they've given the prosecutors the opportunity to reinforce their own story with cross-examination, and the emails I've already seen yesterday and the morning suggest that they've already got ample evidence to do this with. Costello wrote to Cohen that there had been a positive comments from him from the White House and that he had friends in high places. Hoffinger draws out from Costello that he definitely was referring to Donald Trump at that point. So, this guy's testimony, this guy is like really the worst witness they could have. Because at the end of the day, there's no doubt that elements of Cohen's story are true. I mean, if your whole argument was to negate Cohen because he can't be trusted, well, bringing in a guy that actually can validate Cohen's parts and elements of Cohen's story, it doesn't bode well for you. Emails that in depth show Robert Costello was positioned in the hubbub of the investigation of Michael Cohen. As expected, they corroborate prosecutors' story, suggesting that Costello was manipulating Cohen at the discretion of Giuliani and Trump while misleading Cohen so that they could not understand, he would not understand what was happening. So basically, they were manipulating Cohen to set him up as the dupe while Trump was planning this all along. Think of what happened at the end of Veep with Tony Hale's character. How about I say it like that? Costello, and the show's been out for 10 years, for God's sakes. As expected, Costello testifies that sometimes his emails speak for themselves. Sometimes the implication is, and he said earlier, they do not. So he basically, this is in reference to, he kind of got caught because there was an email and he said, well, you need to understand the context of the email. They asked him point blank. It's like, did this email stand for what you meant it to stand for? And he said, no, there's context to it, which the prosecutor didn't want him to say because they're like, we don't want context. We just wanted you to say that there is no context. Then they come back and they said, sometimes the emails speak for themselves. Sometimes the implication is, he said earlier, they do not. So basically they've tied him up now because he's now admitted sometimes the emails, meant something, sometimes they didn't. So Costello wrote in an email that his mission was to get Cohen in the right page without giving him the appearance that we were following instructions from Giuliani or the president. The jurors are paying close attention to this testimony far more than they did at the end of Cohen's cross-examination yesterday. It's hard to see how these emails could be viewed in any other way than how prosecutors want jurors to see them. They show Costello misleading Michael Cohen, saying something to him directly and another thing behind his back. Costello just denied that once again he began to believe that Cohen was in turn misleading him. He was angry or upset. He says he was informed. And now I see another email from Costello and his law partner. It's clear, in fact, that Costello was angry at Cohen, contradicting his previous answer. What should I say to this blank? Costello said his partner. He's playing us with the most powerful man on the. He's playing with the most powerful man on the planet, basically referring to So he basically, this is not, I was trying to be your friend. He's basically saying, what do I do with this guy? And then on the other side of this, he then comes back and says, oh, yeah, Trump was involved. Costello answers no when asked if he was in animosity towards Michael Cohen. Susan Hoffinger points out that Costello went to Washington last week to testify. This was an amazing moment. So Costello went to Washington last week to testify before Congress about Cohen and made aggressive comments about him. Costello said he didn't know his comments would be reported in the press, which is a little hard to fathom. You go and testify in Congress how much you rip on Cohen, and then you're stunned. Stunned, you say, when the prosecutor brings it up to counterpoint your whole, I was always on his side narrative. Wow, you guys are really, really bad at this. Per a pool report, Trump confirmed that the defense would rest today, as expected in remarks outside the courtroom in the hallway. We'll be resting pretty quickly, he said. Resting meaning resting the case. I will be resting. I don't rest. I like to rest sometimes. I don't get to get rest. This is the dumbest human being who's ever lived. I'm serious. I mean, once again, the press are asking him, are you resting the case? I'm going to repeat this to you because it's as stupid as it sounded. This is the Republican candidate for president of the United States. We'll be resting pretty quickly, he said. Resting meaning resting the case. I won't be resting. I don't rest. I like to rest sometimes, but I don't get a rest. The same man who a courtroom sketch artist was able to sketch sleeping during his own trial multiple times is out there saying he doesn't rest. He's your guy. And once again, at what point do you guys just come to admit we're not voting for him because he's a competent leader? We're voting for him because we love the chaos factor he brings to America and the fact that you freak out when he's around. You need to give up the ghost on this eventually. I won't be resting. I don't rest. God, you dumbass. Donald Trump is the stupidest man who ever walked this planet. And this is just a great example of how daddy's money can give you a lot of things on this planet, isn't it? After one of Robert Costello's answers is stricken, Costello shakes his head. Justice Merchant was not looking at the witness at the time. This reminder that, this was one of those things where Costello yesterday was chewed out by the judge for his flippant attitude and talking under his breath. Bove redirects ends with an objection sustained. He folds his big binder in front of him and sits down. Nothing further. The defense rests. Todd Blanche says Susan Hoffinger in a brief final series of questions and answers again confirms that Costello has never officially hired Michael Cohen's lawyer. Costello steps down from the witness stand. So once again, the whole argument Costello is saying is, I was there for him. I was there, but he was never hired. And once again, his own emails point to the fact that he was being manipulated by Trump and Giuliani to basically keep Michael Cohen under control as part of this, payoff to Stormy Daniels. The judge turns to the jury and begins to lay out the schedule for the coming days. He tells jurors the closing arguments will take a day and that his instructions to them afterwards will at least take an hour. He delivers the good news. Court is adjourned until a week from today. So they are now out of court. Memorial Day weekend is coming up this weekend. They wouldn't be in court yesterday anyway. I'm not sure I think this is really only skipping one day, which would be Thursday. But I think what he wants to do is, in case the closing arguments go long, he doesn't want a situation where closing arguments happen on a Thursday, and then it's Tuesday of next week before the jury instructions happen. So it makes sense why he's doing this. Today, this afternoon, the main thing that was being debated, and it's a lot of talk about verbiage. It's the defense team and the prosecutors hammering out the instructions that the judge is going to give to the jury. It didn't seem like, at least when I checked it a while back, it didn't seem like it was anything major. It was, is this word going to be plural? I mean, obviously the jury was trying to create a language, or the defense was trying to create a language for the jury that created a really high bar of standard for the jury to have to judge Trump on. Obviously the prosecutor's like, no. Having paid attention to this whole debacle, without a doubt in my mind, he's guilty as all get go. Paying attention to this trial, and once again, I know I'm reading some things that the jury is not aware of. There's conversations that have happened outside of the realm. The truth is, he's guilty. He's clearly guilty. The prosecutor has the absolute dirt on him. He is not going to, he shouldn't escape from this. It does concern me that if there's one diehard MAGA guy on the jury, that, this could be a hung trial that just says, I don't care if there's, because that's the right of the jury. He can say, I don't care if he's guilty. I see all the evidence. I don't care. I'm never going to say he is guilty. And reminder, conservative news outlets were trying to tell prospective jurors that are Republicans to try to get on the jury, lie if they needed to, so they could basically derail this case. Trump thinks he's going to get acquitted and get a parade in New York City. I think the only parade that's going to happen is basically him going to jail. We will take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Tuesday. It is the Matt McNeil Show once again here on your Tuesday. Nice to have you with us today. Hello, Chicago. An Arizona judge has ordered Rudy Giuliani to surrender within 30 days. Now, as we talk about the human oil spill, the Giuliani is getting to a point where he is pretty dire at this point. I mean, he clearly owes more money than he has in regards to the Georgia case. He is trying to put together funds with a podcast and stuff. But, if you looked at he had a Amazon wish list for his birthday party where he was served the other day with his Arizona summons. It's stuff that you would not think a guy like him would need. He's like, I need a flat screen TV. I need microphones and stuff. He clearly is having a financial crush. And he's not young. He turned 80. And, eventually what's going to happen is the Georgia case is going to take every dime he's got. I mean, he'll have his residence, he'll have a car, but, and that's maybe what he's trying to do, is trying to stash his money as many places as he can. But the reality is he's running out of money. And one of the things, by the way, Costello talked about in the trial I was talking about earlier with Trump, he did say that he himself is suing Rudy Giuliani for unpaid legal bills. So he's not, and that's one of his buddies. That's one of his friends. So Giuliani has been ordered to surrender within 30 days. The former New York City mayor is facing charges related to a fake elector scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. On Tuesday, in Maricopa County Superior Court hearing, prosecutors argued that Giuliani had evaded being served with the indictment papers, which he had. He did not tell us where he was going to be, the prosecutor said, noting Giuliani had to be served Friday night during his 80th birthday party. He has never, although he served him, it's, I guess, semantics on whether he accepted service like a gentleman or not, but he has shown no intent to comply with legal process in Arizona for this case, the prosecutor said. The state asked Giuliani to turn himself in within 30 days and pay a $10,000 cash bond. Now, the $10,000 cash bond, you're going to see. I think Giuliani's in real big financial problems. First of all, it was publicly known where I was going to be when they came to serve me, the former New York City mayor told the judge. I've been on the radio, on television, on radio every day since the indictment started announcing where I am, so I haven't been hiding from everyone. Now, mind you, he put out a social media post earlier that day that says if the Arizona people cannot serve him by the next morning, he was basically not going to be charged with in the case. So, yeah, he lost focus there, to say the least. He's trying to present something that's just not true. Giuliani blamed the tight security at his apartment building for the difficulties serving him. No. I've had a fair number of threats, including death threats. I do have a security no longer since I've been in bankruptcy, so I have very, very strict rules who gets up and who doesn't. And as you might imagine, some people do pretend to be all kinds of things in order to get up and harass you, some of which have happened to me over the years. Yeah, I've seen that Borat film, dude. I still have death threats that go back to the time I was not just a public service, but 4 years ago, there was an attempt to kill me by an Iranian gentleman, very well documented. He tried in France. Then another one tried in the Netherlands. He ranted to the court. Giuliani argued that a cash bond would be totally punitive. So he's basically saying $10,000. This is a guy who, once again, was the mayor, tons of money, lives in a big apartment with such good security that basically it can lock it down, apparently. And he is saying he doesn't have $10,000 to secure a bond. I've been indicted in Georgia. I've appeared on every occasion. I have been sued by 20 to 25 times by a very similar movement to this one, which is the let's see how we can do to destroy Donald Trump. The former New York City mayor insisted, I do consider this indictment a complete embarrassment to the American legal system, but I've shown no tendency not to comply, outside of you basically didn't allow people to serve you. I show up for every court appearance, which there's your red flag right there. And there must have been about 20 to 30 of them. There is no history of my being a false witness. How many times did you try to get the results in Georgia overturned? Oh, that's right. Yeah. False witness. Which is the basis for cash bail. I think I would be outrageous if you set a bond in this completely political case that comes very, very late. Because, yeah, apparently he said, it's past my bedtime. I can't have a court trial here. The judge tried to interrupt Giuliani several times before eventually threatening to cut his microphone. Mr. Giuliani, I do not want to mute you, but I need to move on, she said. I'll adopt the release conditions as requested by the state. However, with respect to the bond, I'll set a secured appearance bond rather than a cash bond with respect to release conditions. Under U.S. rules, Giuliani must provide some type of collateral, property or cash, to be released from jail before the trial. So, like I said, I'm not sure how much money this guy has, but clearly if he's at the point where $10,000 is a bridge too far, then, yeah, they're all guilty. Come on. They're all guilty. They all scream all the time. They all talk, they're innocent. There is nothing more embarrassing today than the amount of Republicans who had this little press conference out in front of the courthouse in Manhattan, screaming about all the injustices and attacking the witnesses and attacking the jurors and all these things. He's guilty. Come on. He's guilty. I get it. Your perception is flawed. That even when you've had evidence, as in the 2 impeachment trials against Trump, the boxes of documents at Mar-a-Lago, the mob that attacked the Capitol, the payoff to Stormy Daniels, the conspiracy case, the phone call where you admit you're looking to try to overturn the election in Georgia illegally. We all know he's guilty. What is really sad is how many Republicans do not care that their legacy is going to be, after he's gone, whether that's not running anymore or when he eventually does pass away, because eventually that does happen on this planet. Them basically trying to argue, well, just because I was out there calling everything lies, it didn't mean I didn't have concerns about it. You're all guilty. Giuliani, he is getting everything that he deserves. I have zero pity for these guys. And this is why November matters, because the only way Donald Trump gets off the hook is if he wins. And so he cannot win. That will be the greatest injustice in the history of this country. Chicago, have a good one. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2 up next. Hour number 2 of the show here for today. Matt and Patrick here. Patrick, it looks like there's a tornado watch in effect for just south of Hennepin County, just all the counties in the South Metro and all the way down into Iowa and in eastern or western Illinois.
Yes, I think they're expecting the most dangerous weather to be if you head down toward Rochester and La Crosse, that area on the Minnesota side. But Iowa, definitely a lot to be careful of tonight. It sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pulling up the radar right now. They're saying it's good. Yeah, definitely. We're going to have rain coming through. It's already coming through on the South Metro right now. Some heavier storms. Mankato heading up towards Red Wing, over towards Eau Claire. So just keep that in mind. They're saying the metro area itself will also get some heavy storms, but we're not in Minneapolis, St. Paul themselves are not in the tornado watch. It's just south of us that is in it at this point. So just be advised. It could be a nasty little commute home this afternoon. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Patrick, of course, we do have the Minnesota Timberwolves playing the Dallas Mavericks tomorrow in Game 1 of the Western Conference Final at Target Center in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Have you managed to score tickets or anything like that yet?
It's a little out of my price range, unfortunately.
I've had some fun. Patrick, I think it's pretty well known. I'm a prick. I'm a real jerk. We all know that, right? So immediately on Facebook, and I've got a private page, and on Facebook, there have been 2 conservative friends of mine who on the timeline, they pop up with this, I don't care if Minnesota's hosting an NBA championship. I never go into Murderapolis. The crime is so horrible. It's horrible crime, but it's a ghost town. Huh? No one's down there, but it's a war zone. What? They're not even consistent with their arguments. But it's the standard, don't go to Minneapolis. It's a scary, horrible place. Boo! That sort of thing. I initially thought about responding to these individuals the way I usually respond to people like this, which is, let me run down the stats. I mean, crime is down, all these things, it's getting better. As a matter of fact, if you've not been downtown, I was downtown this last weekend for Open Doors and Art of World, which was phenomenal. Art of World was as packed as the State Fair was. That northeast side, unbelievable. But all you people are like, but Matt, that's a special event. I heard from multiple people going downtown this last weekend that the downtown was absolutely packed to the gills, especially on Friday and Saturday night again. So you can complain and moan all you like. The reality, and that was not a Twins game. Twins were out of town. T-Wolves were out of town at that point because I believe they played Thursday and then they played on Sunday. So it's just people are going downtown. There's a lot of things going on down there. There's a lot of people down there. I was going to go do that, but instead I decided to have some fun. And I posted on these posts, it's like, oh, that's a shame. I've landed a pair of tickets, and now, unfortunately, I can't go to the game. Now, this is called baiting a hook, okay? Bait your hook. Both cases, I did this twice. In both cases, almost instantaneously, on Messenger, not on the main feed where everyone could see it. On Messenger, they said, hey, Matt, are you serious about having 2 tickets? I said, yeah, but you don't want to go downtown. Obviously, it's you're not comfortable going downtown. Well, forget about that. If you got 2 tickets, you're looking to get rid of them, I'll take them off your hands. And I'm like, well, you're not just trying to sell the tickets or anything like that. You'd use them yourself, even though you say you're coming downtown. Oh, that's just talk. I'll go downtown to Target Center. I don't think that's a problem at all. And that's where I inform them, no, I do not have tickets. But I have just conveniently exposed their entire lie. The first guy I did it to, he waited about 30 minutes where I can still, through the internet, hear him pacing back and forth about how he responds. And he basically eventually responded, well, I was just going to sell those tickets anyway. Oh, okay. Got me. Zinger. The other guy almost instantly just put it on FU. If you're going to set yourselves up so easily, then fine. I mean, I'll give you another. You can do that. By the way, if you do have people on your timeline doing that, set them up, man. Let them expose themselves for the frauds they are. I'm never going to Minneapolis. Shame, I got a pair of tickets. Oh, I'll go to Minneapolis. I think Minneapolis is great. What are you talking about? Who doesn't want to go down there? I see. So it's all a lie. I get you. Set them up. Let the pins fall. It's the same way I've said to people, because Republicans right now are desperately trying to basically derail the DFL with either Nicole Mitchell or with how the session ended, even though they were the ones that basically caused the session to get stagnant as it was. And so whenever I've had a conservative come up to me, I said, man, how do you think you guys are going to win with Nicole Mitchell? Or how do you think you're going to win because that's how you treated us? And the first thing I say to them, every one of them, just say this. Hey, do you have any comments on Royce White? See, Royce White, I talked with Broadcorp about him yesterday. It's stunning how bad of a candidate choice he is. Because he's the Senate candidate. He's going to, right now, he's the endorsed GOP Senate candidate going against Klobuchar. And not a single Republican wants to defend him. And they don't want to. Because I can tell you right now, as much as you think Nicole Mitchell is going to hurt DFLers, as much as you think how you guys set up the end of the session to try to hurt DFLers, you think that that's going to damage the DFL? Trust me. That just got counterpointed by yourself because of Royce White. So you want us to defend other people? You defend some of the tweets and comments from Royce White. His anti-Semitic comments, his homophobic comments, his misogynist comments. Please, I'll let you take the floor. You defend them. They don't want to. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. We've got Patrick here, Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer talking to Brett. They are going to chat on the end of the session with the Republican filibuster that basically jammed everything up. And basically some things that we learned from Donald Trump's visit, stench-filled, ungodly violation of our beautiful city. How about I say it like that? When he came to town last Friday, here is Brett talking with Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer right here on AM 950.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Brett Johnson with you here on a Tuesday afternoon. And today, of course, we are joined by the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer. That's Patrick Cooligan, as we're going to be chatting about some of the stories they've been working on over at the Minnesota Reformer, as we have lots to cover today, including what happened during the last weekend of the state legislative session. We'll be talking about what was in the Democrats' 1,400-page bill that they were able to get passed, as well as Republican filibustering. Plus, we'll talk through Patrick's column on Donald Trump being in town and some of the lessons that he has taught us over the years. So lots to get to today as we are joined by Patrick. Thanks so much for coming back on the show. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. So let's start off talking about the legislative session, which just ended this past weekend, because as Michelle Griffith writes, the chaotic end leaves Democrats with few wins at the state legislature. So let's start off by diving into this 1,400-page, I don't know if we can necessarily call this an omnibus bill, but what exactly was in this bill? Because I know there were some things that people were paying attention to, including a compromise on the Uber-Lyft bill, as well as junk fees. So what overall did the Dems pass during those final hours of the session over the weekend?
Yeah, they essentially ran out of time, and so they were forced to kind of throw everything into this one bill, and it's a bit of a kitchen sink, and that's putting it mildly. It has everything from increasing the penalties for the straw purchases of guns. It's got some tax provisions. It's got some technical fixes to the paid family leave law, as well as a payroll tax increase. All kinds of stuff in there. And that was due to, depending on how you look at it, either a poorly managed session on the part of the Democrats or some really over-the-top obstructionism on the part of the Republicans. And we can get into that in a minute. But the bill was certainly worth passing. A lot of good provisions in there. Most importantly, I think you mentioned the Uber-Lyft compromise. So the companies have agreed to stay in Minnesota, and the drivers are going to get a significant raise if you just go by the price, their minimum pay that they'll receive as they drive. As a result of that, the Minneapolis ordinance that was set to take effect on July 1st will no longer be operative. The rates are quite a bit lower than what Minneapolis had passed. But again, the companies stay here, and the drivers get a pretty significant win. So overall, it was really ugly the way it ended, but they did get it done. And I think ultimately that matters a lot more than the process.
Yeah, and I like the idea that the junk fees bill also was able to get through, since I don't think anyone likes getting those service fees or those health and wellness surcharges or whatever else can show up on your bills. That likely won't be the case anymore thanks to that bill that was passed over the weekend. But let's talk about how we got to this place of the DFL passing this massive 1,400-page bill, which largely, as they say, has to do with GOP obstruction that was occurring during the last few days and weeks of session. Let's talk a little bit about some of the tactics that the GOP was using, because we've certainly seen this before from the minority party in the legislature, whether it's been the DFL or the Republicans, of trying to obstruct things at the end of session. But it sounds like Democrats are accusing Republicans of kind of crossing a line compared to what we've seen in prior years, correct?
Yeah, they think that they used the very generous terms of debate, which are a bit of an outlier in the Minnesota House compared to other legislative bodies across the country. Apparently, the National Conference of State Legislatures refers to it as kind of the Wild West, and that is just essentially giving the minority total right to debate as long as they want. And it was just a matter of time, I think, before a minority caucus was going to do what is functionally a filibuster and use as much time as they wanted and could to try to delay the passage of bills and really kind of jam up the majority party. And the reason it is particularly effective in the House is because there's just so many members there, and the Republicans have 64 members. So you can imagine how if each one can get up and talk for a half an hour, you can really extend debate. And it really kind of jammed up the Democrats. But I think it's worth noting that it was just as much of a problem that on the Senate side, Democrats have a 1-seat majority, and so they have to have everybody on board. And in the case of Uber-Lyft, what happened was that the Senator Omar Fatah has been a leader on this issue. He's been pushing for it for more than a year, and as they were doing final negotiations, I think he sent a strong signal on Saturday, and remember they had to finish all their business by midnight, 11:59 Sunday. He did not appear on the Senate floor for a key vote, and I think the signal was I'm not going to support anything until we get this Uber Lyft situation nailed down and I get what I need on that. So you can't just blame Republicans because they didn't meet at all, hardly, or pass much at all, at least on the Senate side on Saturday. So you have these narrow majorities, end of session, people are frustrated, they're tired, and Republicans, probably, took it a little further than we've seen legislative minorities in the past. But the rules are the rules, and they decided they're going to use them to try to stop the DFL majority from passing their agenda. And turnabout is fair play. The Democrats made use of the rules. You can stop debate. The chair can do that, and they did. It is unusual. It's called moving the previous question, but it does happen. That's what they did. It's probably not the best process to take a bunch of bills and throw them together into a 1,430-page bill and pass it at 11:50 or whatever it was on Sunday night. But it's not against the rules, and so that's what happened. So it really, you get all on the Senate side, well, both sides, but the Senate side especially, the Republicans were just sort of shouting at the rostrum for the final 30 minutes of the legislative session. It was, they thought that they were being treated unfairly because debate was being cut off, and this bill was being presented to them with no time to read it or review it. And so they sat there shouting, or stood there and shouted at the Senate President, Bobby Joe Champion. It was not a good look for the Minnesota legislature. But it's one of those things where I tend to think that maybe your listeners are aware of it. Maybe my readers are, but for the most part, I don't think the Minnesota public is really tuned into this kind of thing. I mean, if for nothing else, because it happens in the middle of the night or at midnight.
On a weekend, too, yes.
On a Sunday night. But I think it's certainly not a great sign of a robust civic health. But we live in polarized times, and like I said, narrow majorities. They're trying to get what they want to get passed. Republicans are doing everything they can to stop it. I mean, everybody's just kind of playing their role, and that's how it all played out.
Well, I can remember many times when the Republicans had the majority in the legislature, the number of times that they would send through these massive omnibus bills with like 45 minutes left in the session, basically telling everyone, vote on this bill and you have like a half hour to read it. And it's certainly nothing new having these last-minute bills. So, the GOP whining about it is kind of rich, considering that the same thing was happening when they were in the majority party. A couple more final questions.
Everybody, as we say around the legislature, everybody is a hypocrite on process. Because as soon as you're in the majority, now you have a whole different set of priorities. You're trying to get your stuff passed, and the First Amendment rights of the minority caucus are far less important than they were when you were in the minority, and then the situation has switched.
Yeah, interesting how that changes once your perspective changes, depending on if you're in the majority or the minority party in the legislature. I just have a couple more final questions regarding the end of sessions. Let's talk about the bonding bill, or at least the lack thereof, because it at least seems like the DFL is, I wouldn't necessarily say content, but at least not angry about the fact that they weren't able to get one passed compared to prior years, as it sounds like they are saying that largely they felt like they have enough infrastructure funding, at least for now, so they didn't think the bonding bill was quite as high a priority as it normally would be in these types of election years, correct?
Yeah, and I really got a sense for this earlier in the week, or last week on Thursday. We were hearing from House Speaker Melissa Hortman, and her position was that Republicans were trying to get these really massive policy wins in exchange for their votes that were needed for this infrastructure bill, and that's because they used borrowed money to do these public works bills, and so you need a supermajority, so you need Republican votes. And Republicans were saying, well, we'll give you the votes if you don't go forward with the Equal Rights Amendment, for instance. And I mean, she just laughed that off. So like, these things are not related, and also we're not going to trade away human rights for some construction projects. And then the other thing she said was, look, we did big bonding bills in 2020. They did a huge one last year. There's so much federal infrastructure money that's been flowing into the state. Anybody who drives around, you see the results of it. There's construction going on all over. Interest rates are a little higher now. Unemployment's very low. And, it's not even clear that we have the construction workforce that we need to do all that we're doing. So not having a bonding bill this year, I think it's certainly not ideal because the state has all of these assets that need maintaining, and it's clean water projects, water infrastructure, and bridges and roads. There's a lot of university buildings. Local communities have all these projects that they want to get done, and so it's too bad. And it's politically, Democrats came into the session, Governor Walz, and those narrow DFL majorities. They said, it's a bonding year. It's our number one goal, and they didn't get it done. But I think that they just kind of felt like, well, we're not going to trade away some huge policy victory for Republicans just for a construction bill when there's already quite a bit of public construction happening from both the state and federal legislation the last few years.
And any chance we're going to see a special session called for any of the priorities the DFL was looking to get passed but didn't? I guess I'm chiefly thinking about that ERA bill, or at least getting the ERA amendment up for a vote in 2026. Is there any appetite for any special session, or is this largely going to be the end until, next year when the legislature reconvenes?
There is not. Governor Tim Walz made that clear yesterday at a press conference. And in general, I think the longer that governors are in office, the less they like having the legislature around in St. Paul. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I also just don't think they had the votes in the Senate for the ERA. I suspect that Grant Hochschild, the Hermantown DFL senator, I don't think he wanted to vote for it in the way that it passed out of the House. He's it's a very much a close district, battleground district, and he is trying to protect his moderate bona fides. So I don't think they had the votes. If they had the votes, they would have put it up. I think it's terrible for the advocates of the ERA, which they've suffered this both last year and this year, and I think it's a shame that at least at this point it won't be on the ballot. But if Democrats can secure the majority again next year, they can take another shot at it. The only problem is that the Senate's not on the ballot this year, so all things being equal, they'll come back with a one seat majority, and it's again it's not clear to me that they have the votes to get the ERA on the ballot. I think DFL political operatives would certainly like to see the ERA on the ballot in 2026. It's an off-year election. It could be a Biden second term, midterm. They may this could be a new DFL candidate nominee for governor. They have all kinds of concerns about 2026, and putting the ERA on the ballot probably helps you with young women especially, but all kinds of voters, base voters that they'll need for 2026.
Well, make sure you read what Michelle has been reporting over at the Minnesota Reformer on what's happening with the state legislature and what happened during this last week of the session over at MinnesotaReformer.com. Briefly want to touch touch on a column that you wrote last week titled "Trump is in Town." Here's just some of what he taught us. And I kind of like the way you phrase this, because you talked about on what Donald Trump could teach your two very young sons, some important life lessons, among them being you never lose, you are always cheated whenever you do lose. Don't pay your legal bills, the president gets unlimited power, people who die in war are suckers. Just a lot of real nice life lessons that Donald Trump has taught our future generations. So curious if you can expand a little bit on your column, because I think it just kind of shows that everything with Trump supporters is very much transactional when we look at many of these character flaws that you wrote about in your column, and the fact that, well, Republicans are still sticking with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of came of age in the 90s when we always got these lectures from conservatives. I remember Bill Bennett had this book called The Book of Virtues, I think. When Bill Clinton got himself into some trouble, there was a lot of scolding about the importance of character in our elected officials, and how this was all sort of the decline of the American Republic. And then you turn around, it's like some of the same people. They just don't care, even when they acknowledge that all of this stuff in Trump's, it's who he is. The constant lying and the shady business dealings and the failed business dealings, and to say nothing about the effort to overturn an election, but I kind of just thought, well, let's just lay all this out and think about all the ways that what Trump has taught the American public about how to behave, and it's startling when you put it all there in a list like I did. I thought I was startled myself. It's like you just can't believe it, and then here we are at it again, and he's got a very good shot at returning to the White House.
Yeah, it's amazing, too, how many people have now come of age during the Trump presidency, and this is kind of the new normal for them, at least politically, where they didn't really know an era, well, prior to when Donald Trump was in office, as many of these things, as we pointed out, have been kind of normalized by him over the past few years. But you can read more about Patrick's column over at MinnesotaReformer.com, titled "Trump is in Town." Here's just some of what he taught us, as it's a good recap of what all he has done over the past few years, and, well, pretty much throughout his entire lifetime, including, well, not paying his legal bills and even paying contractors over the years. We have been speaking with Patrick Coulican, who is the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer. Please do make sure you go to MinnesotaReformer.com for Minnesota news and politics. Patrick, as always, thanks for coming back on the show today. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Brett.
All right, let's take a break and send things back over to Matt McNeil on AM 950.
Hey, Mr. DJ, put a record on. I wanna dance with my baby.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. Apparently, Robert Downey Jr. was downtown in the downtown Target. That's not expected. Well, I guess you do see an increase of celebrities with the conference finals. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of them in town. I don't know if he's here. Do you know if Robert Downey Jr. is either a Dallas or Minnesota fan? I don't think he's a Minnesota fan.
I do not know.
Anyway. He was in Minneapolis Target. Why the Iron Man actor was promoting his Happy Coffee brand, according to those who were in the store. My wife walked with her coworker who needed packing tape to the downtown Target and ran into Robert Downey Jr. He spent some time giving out photographs, even signed someone's Iron Mask sign. The Hollywood actor is co-founder of Happy Coffee, according to his website. And of course, he's just got his first Oscar for Oppenheimer. Maybe that Bring Your Ass tourism campaign to Minneapolis by Explore Minnesota, it seems to be working. Nicely done. We got our first biggin. We landed a keeper. Hey, Robert Downey Jr., if you are in town and you are listening to this show at this point, by the way, first of all, thanks. Second of all, I will basically whore myself out for your coffee brand. Please, we'd love to have you on the air with us. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. or comment at am950radio.com. You never know. Hey, speaking of an abrupt change of topic, former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, yep, that guy, approached a vehicle. This is for Patty Day in January of 2020, so 6 months before the George Floyd debacle. And he murdered, I shouldn't say debacle, when he murdered George Floyd. Let me make it very clear there. She was struggling emotionally, coping with sad divorce from the father of her 2 young children and drinking too much. And a federal civil rights lawsuit filed on Tuesday by renowned police officer brutality lawyer Bob Bennett. Day said Chauvin escalated what should have been a routine roadside encounter into violence, leaving with her broken front tooth, bleeding hand, and injured shoulder, and bruises all over her arms. The lawsuit said he threw her face down in the street, then assumed his signature pose, pressing his knee to the into the subdued and handcuffed Patty's back, just as he would later snuff out the life of George Floyd and remain that way well after Patty was controlled. The 42-page federal civil rights complaint seeks at least $9 million in damages from Chauvin. His partner that day, Ellen Jensen, and the city of Minneapolis. Jensen did not participate. Not only participated in the case, but failed to intervene when Chauvin put Day under his knee. So nice police work there, Jensen. Can we take your badge from you? The city's longstanding custom and practice of unchecked use of force violations by police officers against the citizenry is the moving force behind the violation of Patty's constitutional rights. On that day, Day had been drinking, took a nap, woke up to an alarm, and jumped into her van to pick up her child from daycare. After a couple blocks, she realized she had to pull over, and she did, turning off the van and tossing her keys in the back, sobbing until she fell asleep. She had forgotten her cell phone, and the Russian couldn't call for help. It was so cold she used a remote starter to fire up the engine and get some heat. The keys weren't in the ignition, and she had no plans to drive. Residents from a nearby house came out to talk to her and told them she was having a bad time. They eventually called police. Chauvin and Jensen showed up. Okay. You call the police, and Derek Chauvin is the guy that shows up for a person that's going through a crisis moment. As the two approached the van, Day was talking to the neighbors, who told the officers she was having a tough time at home. Chauvin, however, reached into the vehicle, opened the door, grabbed Day's left arm while Jensen grabbed her right. They threw me fast down to the street and in the snow very forcibly. They didn't ask me to get out of the car. I wasn't being combative. I wasn't being difficult. I just wanted to let them know I wasn't trying to drive. Day said the neighbors watched as Chauvin got on top of her. I was screaming no. I was screaming to the neighbors, "Where are you? Are you seeing this?" She said. Chauvin took her to the squad vehicle, threw her on the side, threw her in sideways, handcuffed her tightly, bleeding through her back. The third officer then came to arrest her for driving while intoxicated. Day said he was kind, though. But no use of force report was filed, and the city has yet to share the body-worn video footage with her. Once again, we're back to the, if the story the police tell, let's get that body cam footage out here. You can see we did everything right. When it doesn't, we got privacy issues here. We can't do this. Release the damn footage now. God, you guys are predictable on this. Share the body. Share it. Come on, what's the problem? Unless you know that they did something wrong. Lawyer Katie Bennett said it's time for Minneapolis to turn over the footage. We gave them a year. We've been patient enough, she said. The lawsuit said the city's reluctance is unsurpassing, and the city attorney's office routinely uses full confidentiality concerns under the Minnesota Government Act to withhold the body-worn camera video from persons depicted thereon, despite clear law mandating the release. In reports filed, are we about to get before we release this, we want to let people know passions get high. Shut up and turn over the damn body cam video. Come on. It's been 4 years at this point. Come on, we know better at this point, right? Right? In reports filed that evening, neither Jensen nor Chauvin recounted the extent of the assault on Day, the lawsuit said. According to their police reports, the officers said they ordered Day out of the van. That's not what happened. Officer Jerry Broden came and arrested her on suspicion of driving while intoxicated. She went downtown for testing, which revealed she did have a blood alcohol level of 0.25, nearly triple the legal threshold for driving. She was charged with 2 gross misdemeanor counts of driving while intoxicated. But at an evidentiary hearing, so by the way, you can already hear the right-wing media and the police apologists saying, "See, she was a criminal. Thank God they beat her up in the street." Hold on a second. After an evidentiary hearing on Day's criminal case in February, Hennepin County District Judge Julie Allen, Allyn, saw the video footage of her arrest. Allen concluded that Day was not given any orders. So once again, the judge has seen the body cam footage. And wait, she had not given any orders before officers began pulling her out of the vehicle, nor was she informed she was under arrest, the lawsuit said. Wow, that is really crappy police work. That is sucky at your job. Yep. This is remember, this is the Bob Kroll era, wasn't it? It's the signature Bob Kroll arrest, isn't it? Signature Bob Kroll. At the hearing, he goes, wasn't Chauvin his buddy? Wasn't Chauvin Bob Kroll's buddy? Isn't he your buddy? Isn't he your pal? Isn't he? After his hearing, Assistant Minneapolis City Attorney Annalise Backstrom, who had seen the footage, said in court, "I just want to make it clear that my office and myself in particular don't condone the way that the interaction went down in this particular case." The prosecuting attorney was like, whoa. Yeah, that's not us. She said the city agreed to drop the charge to 4th-degree DWI, which is a compromise because of how she was treated. In other words, one of Minneapolis' own attorneys, as well as city management, had reviewed the video, clearly found the officer's conduct was out of bounds. In April 2021, Allen issued a motion suppressing evidence, including the blood alcohol test, because she said the officers lacked probable cause to arrest her for DWI when they yanked her from the van. The city then, with no evidence, dismissed the charges against Day. The city surprisingly did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Turn over the damn body cam footage. It's already out. We already know Derek Chauvin beat her without cause. Her partner helped beat her without cause. Come on. There's no point now. We know what the judge said. We know what your own prosecuting attorney was like. We don't want anything to do with this. Yesterday, there was a story saying the city of Minneapolis is $21 million in debt. This is going to cost us $9 million. This is going to cost the taxpayers of Minneapolis $9 million. Why? Because crap-ass cop behavior beat a person in the streets without cause. And it's funny, all the cops and all the cop protectors all of a sudden get real quiet. Get real quiet. Oh, get really quiet. When all of a sudden the bill comes due for their crap-ass behavior. All of a sudden you got no comment. All you anti-tax and spend conservatives out there, all you guys who talk about wasting my taxpayer dollars, all of a sudden you don't want to talk about the amount of money we've had to waste in the city of Minneapolis paying out settlements for the police's inexcusable behavior. And at no point do you say, hey, maybe we shouldn't have the police, I don't know, beating people in the street without cause. Nope. You are sitting there in Trill's trying to figure out a way to call this good police work, good action. I'm tired of this. Now, once again, I want to be very blunt. This all happened before O'Hara was the chief. But, Chief, it's time to stop playing games. We already know what's on this tape. Release the damn footage. And maybe the police and all you Republicans that back up the police's behavior. Why don't you guys pass the hat? Why don't you guys raise the $9 million to pay for this off? Because I guarantee you this, if this came out of the police budget or if this came out of the union funds for the police department, I guarantee you there would be immediate training tomorrow about what you do not do. No, you guys want no culpability for the crap-ass policing that you guys did, and yet then you expect the city of Minneapolis to pay off your debts. And at no point do you even say thank you. At no point do you say we were wrong. Nope, you cowards just hide. This is unacceptable. Again, another case. George Floyd, Jaleel Stallings, Miss Day. Have you done anything with the cop that basically did this? Is it 4 years? Oh, now is the review in process now? Oh, we're reviewing this case now that the public knows about it. The judge saw this and said, what are you guys doing? The prosecuting attorney saw this and say, oh, wait a second. This was bad. They didn't want to go to court with it because they wouldn't want to have to defend it. And I do have to ask the question of whether or not the judge dismissed this case to prevent this from coming on out. Another quality Bob Kroll police effort. That's what this was. Another quality job. $9 million the taxpayers have to pay in a city that's running a debt. And you know why they're running a debt? Because payouts for crap police work. And at no point do any Republicans want to go to St. Paul and reimburse the city of Minneapolis for this. Nope. It's their cops. They're their buddies. They don't want to have to defend their actions. But they'll sure rip on Minneapolis for ruining a budget deficit. Yeah, if we didn't have to pay off your buddy's bad behavior constantly. Release the damn body cam footage and write the damn check. And maybe next time, maybe we need to have a Democrat that's got the guts to go over to St. Paul and say, here is the reimburse Minneapolis for all the bad police work crap bill of 2025. Can't wait to hear the Republicans. Well, that's not fair. Why do you want to hold them accountable? It's time to start calling their bluff and make them go on out there and say the city of Minneapolis is not only the victim, but they have to pay back for the bad police behavior of the Bob Kroll era yet once again. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break, come on back and wrap it up. It's the Matt McNeil Show on your Tuesday. AM 950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. I got some other things to talk about, but we're going to have to put that aside for the time being because I got two tornado warnings here in Minnesota. First one, this one goes until 5:15 this afternoon. It's Janesville, Eliason, Waterville, Kilkenny, and Montgomery down in the southern part of the state, kind of on the west side of 35 down there. There's a active tornado warning in effect right now down there. Also, this one is definitely one to keep an eye on. This is just south of us as well. A tornado warning for Owatonna, Medford, Kenyon, Nestrad, and Denison going up to Northfield and White Rock. That is currently in effect until 5:30 this afternoon. As once again, there's a tornado watch. Now, the tornado watch basically is the southern metro. It's not Hennepin or Ramsey County. It's south of that, all the way down to basically Iowa and in towards Illinois as well. Where they're having apparently a lot of tornadoes down in the Iowa region right now. So just something to keep in mind. And, looking at the radar, heavy rain is coming through the metro right now. And it's going to be with us here for a little bit. Once again, the tornado warnings are south of the metro area, basically, east and west of 35 in about 30 minutes or so south of the Twin Cities. What continues, I don't know how much this is going to affect. If this changes, once again, we'll keep an eye on things. Just be careful. If you're heading on out, it's going to be some real heavy rain. I expect the commute home this evening is probably going to be a little rough for most of the metro area. You want to be careful with that and just anticipate it being raining through the evening hours here in the Twin Cities. But once again, a actual tornado warning is in effect now down south of the metro area. Once again, the first one is over from Owatonna, basically running up to Northfield and White Rock in that area there. And then the other one right now is Montgomery, Minnesota, Janesville, Minnesota, Waterville, Minnesota. That's until 5:15. The one in Owatonna is going on currently from until 5:30 this afternoon. So just especially if you're headed south, just anticipate it being some tough weather. And hunker down, be safe out there. Please do. Can we make sure Robert Downey Jr. is okay? I think that's a main cause as well. So I'll talk about the ERA amendment tomorrow. I wanted to get into that. I will talk about that. Also, Jeff Stein going to be joining us tomorrow, where I imagine a lot of tornadoes down there. So we'll probably talk to him a little bit about that as well. Native Roots Radio is up next. Have a good one until tomorrow. See ya.